Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Elliott School of International Affairs here at the George Washington University. My name is Ambassador Ruben Brigidi, and I'm the Dean here of the Elliott School. And on behalf of the school, as well as on behalf of the Institute for African Studies, we are delighted to host this C. Payne Lucas Africa Policy Forum in partnership with our friends at the Constituency for Africa. Let me begin just by recognizing a few of our honored guests. First of all, to all of the assembled African Diplomatic Corps, all of our ambassadors, your excellencies, good morning, you are most welcome. We're delighted to have you here. Let me also welcome Congresswoman Karen Bass, the newly re-elected Congresswoman Karen Bass, who for now is the ranking member of the House Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, Human Rights, and International Organizations. They are not here yet, but I know that later today we'll be joined by two former Assistant Secretaries of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, as well as Hank Cohen. Let me also recognize one of my heroes, General Kip Ward, the inaugural commander of the U.S. AFRICOM, General. Happy Veterans Day as well. So we're delighted to have you here. We're also very honored to have with us Dr. Julius Garvey. He's an eminent American surgeon and son of the human rights leader Marcus Garvey. He is a champion of Pan-Africanism and the African resistance, and also a tireless advocate of Black empowerment in Africa here at home. Dr. Garvey, you're most welcome. And as also been mentioned, we're also delighted to have Jennifer Cook, as well as Ambassador Liberatsa Mulamula, the Director and Associate Director of our Institute for African Studies. Ladies, delighted to have you. Thank you. I know that all of us here, myself included, are passionate about Africa and its place in the world, and the need for the United States to continue to strengthen its engagement and partnership with the continent and its people. Let me also kind of divert very briefly from my prepared remarks. So I became dean here at the Elliott School on October 1st, 2015. I was dean for 2 hours. And in my first public speech here at this podium, I declared that we would create a new Institute for African Studies before the start of the next academic year. I didn't ask anybody's permission. I didn't say we were going to convene a committee to think about doing this at some point, pending the identification of resources, some point in the future. I said we're going to do it. Because we understood how important focus on Africa is, not only for our community, but indeed for our students who are preparing to be foreign affairs professionals. And it is my hope that this forum will help to forge a shared strategic vision for U.S. engagement in Africa, one that is practical, forward-looking, and strategically optimistic. Today, we want to generate ideas and policy recommendations that we can ultimately share with the administration, with the U.S. Congress, and with the broader policy community. At the same time, we also want to expand and amplify the voice and influence of a broad and diverse U.S. constituency on African policy issues, a constituency that includes universities, the business sector, religious institutions, leading voices in the African diaspora community, and African partner governments and citizens. Here at the Elliott School, as I mentioned, we are committed to building out that constituency. The establishment of our Institute for African Studies, we aim to strengthen the university's role in elevating Africa policy, research, and debate, informed by multiple disciplines, multiple sectors, and a diversity of perspectives. Most of all, we aim to educate and energize a young generation of future leaders, and to ensure that the African continent of 1 billion people lies firmly in the mainstream of U.S. global engagement. So with that, let me thank all of you for coming, and please allow me to give the floor to my sister, Ms. Janine Scott, Chair of the Constituency of Africa's Board of Directors. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Your Excellency, ambassadors and diplomatic corps representatives who are here present, Honorable Karen Bass, officials from U.S. government and other international institutions, colleagues and friends of Africa, good morning and welcome to the CFA Africa Policy Forum, held here in partnership with the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University. And thank you to Ruben and Jennifer for hosting us here today and for being a consistent partner to CFA over the years. This forum is actually part of our annual Ronald H. Brown series on African affairs, which is usually held at the end of the series, week-long discussions on topics ranging from peace and security, trade, investment, health, amongst others. This year, we opted to wait until after the midterm elections with an eye on whether or not these important elections might have an effect or serve as a game changer in some respect for the African policy agenda in the U.S., maybe. We will hear from Honorable Congresswoman Karen Bass shortly, who I'm sure, as incoming chair of the Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, and Human Rights, may have a perspective to offer. But let me turn for a minute to the fact that we have now decided to name this forum after Mr. C. Payne Lucas, who was the founder of Africare, who had amongst that, and many other credentials amongst that. And he passed away, as we all know, this past September. Apart from having been my first boss for some 3 decades ago, and he was dedicated to really fighting for diversity in the ranks of those working in the foreign affairs arena. Mr. Lucas was absolutely passionate about and committed to the well-being of Africa and her diaspora, believing that together we are stronger. He also believed in reaching across the table to bring policymakers, legislators, presidents, clergy, civil society, international organizations, and others of all races and creeds to the table to ensure that the African voice was heard in the halls of Washington and around the nation. He was bipartisan or maybe nonpartisan in his outreach. He was a dedicated Africanist, and as such, he was able to create one of the most effective development agencies that worked on behalf of the continent while wielding one of the strongest voices that also advocated for Africa. So as we look around this room this morning, it is in this spirit of inclusiveness and diversity that we at CFA are holding this policy forum and why we have chosen to name it after Mr. Lucas. We hope that we will have provocative and thoughtful reflections and to reach some conclusions and recommendations this morning that we can share with U.S. policymakers as well as with others such as the African Union, the World Bank, and more. The African agenda seems to be a bit cached these days, and so it is important that those of us who care about the continent ensure that we keep the dialogue lifted and positive. This has been part of CFA's mission for some 28 years, and we intend to continue this work through our signature Round Brown series, forums, diplomatic outreach program, our town halls around the country, our white papers, and many more activities. I thank you for your time. I look forward very much to this. I say very much. I speak franglais sometimes to this morning's deliberations.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Greetings to all of you here today. Dean Brigidi, Ambassador Brigidi, I am very happy to be on your very fine turf here today. I'm still trying to get him to become my barber. That's a true story. And of course, Mel, Janine, it's always a joy to be in your presence as well as so many other eminences here today. In the tried and true custom of diplomacy, and because there are so many honorables and excellencies and laudables here today, let me just say in greeting all of you, all protocols observed. I am certainly honored to be asked to provide a few comments today on the wonderful occasion of naming this forum in memory of the inimitable C. Payne Lucas, the godfather of American involvement in social development work in Africa as we know it today. As most all of you may know, C. Payne Lucas was one of the co-founders of Africare, an organization that has as its sole mission the improvement of African lives. It has been in that business and doing this work for nearly 50 years, since 1970. I have been privileged to be its leader for over 2 years now, and I am still in a state of discovery. But the organization that C. Payne and others built was intentional, very focused on doing the kind of work that my grandmother would probably have described as the kind of work that gets you into heaven. The Lord's work, as she would undoubtedly say. But we all know what that is, whether we call it that or not. And whether or not we see our reward as heaven or as seeing the difference we've made in people's lives through improving the conditions for the growing of their food, the feeding of their children and their livestock, the sanitizing of their water, the improving of their nutrition, and caring for their health. The work is the quintessential thing. That the Constituency for Africa would seek to memorialize this forum by renaming it in memory of C. Payne is an honor that his wife and his daughter, his grandchildren, all of his family appreciate, and one that AfriCare salutes. As I have come to learn, though, C. Payne was not one for lots of awards or tributes. He was happy to get them if that meant a meaningful role or contribution for AfriCare, of course. But there's more than a bit of irony in this, too. Basically, the forum is a bit of a talk fest. Now, that is not to suggest that the discussions that we are going to have today are not vital and necessary, nor is it to suggest that this kind of work is not just as meaningful as being on the ground providing humanitarian assistance of some kind to people in need. Both kinds of activities are altogether essential for successful development and engagement with and on behalf of the peoples of Africa. It is just that C. Payne found more solace and happiness in doing and hands-on management and engagement. It pushed him ever forward, sharpened his vision, steeled his resolve. May this forum ever be the same motivator. May it elevate our insights on what may be possible more to lift Mother Africa. May the work you do here always inform and bend the policy agenda in the direction of what is right and best for African development and growth. And may we all be as strong as an African diamond in resistance to ignorant stereotypes and prejudice about Africa, the continent, when we hear such spoken by the lowliest in our polity or the most high in our public life. Do these things to be worthy of an association with C. Payne Lucas. If you do so, you will indeed be doing the Lord's work. Thank you.